Hello and welcome to Beyond Top 10 Tennis. My name is Dr. Ashley Berge and I'm your host. If you're not familiar with my work or would like to learn more about it, head on over to AIMA International, the first tennis lab of its kind worldwide that is centered on delivering top 10 tennis rankings and is 100% backed by science. This season, we are embarking on something new, something fresh, what I've been holding back. Changeover segments will deliver how to beat the best players in the world and or how the best players in the world are winning with top 10 to Grand Slam differences. If you want more, that's where my 14 books come into play. So be sure to dive into them and become familiar with AIMA International and the 180 plus previous episodes. It's a new frontier and I'm no longer holding back. So buckle in and enjoy the ride. Welcome to another edition of Beyond Top 10 Tennis. We've got a really big week. I'll say our first big week of the new year. We are almost 2 weeks in, but the rankings, I'll say, have officially updated with the results. I know there were some updates last week, but they didn't correlate with new results, performances, etc. Brisbane's wrapped up, Hong Kong's wrapped up, United Cup has wrapped up, Auckland as well, and then we've got Auckland and Adelaide and Hobart kicking off today, jam-packed. Look, WTA rankings have been updated, ATP rankings have lagged, so we'll have a review later on the week. I'm sure we'll get the chance to go over them, or I'll say thereabouts. All of those results are on the screen over here, so you can, you can't see them, but so you know that's where I will be predominantly looking, filling you in. But we do have the changeover segment as well today, and I've listed all the players we will be addressing specifically as well. And I'm looking forward to that because there are, I'll say, some interesting ones. Some players I will share with you. Sure, I definitely got a bit frustrated watching them, because from my perspective, when I'm seeing a player, top 10 specifically, making, I think, not necessarily errors, but it's their mind frame during play, and why, if their coach on the sideline isn't or hasn't been conditioning them to better adapt, because the issues that I'm noticing, they're not one-off. I've seen them countless times before for a number of players, and it is essentially what hinders them and holds them back, whether it is from winning another Grand Slam, consistently making the semi-finals or finals of a Grand Slam, etc. You get a bird's eye view since one of my scallywags in the background. And again, I think that's the catch of going live. So you would have heard me, I think 2 episodes ago, so episode 183. He's slowly digging a hole in the carpet. Not really, he's just getting comfortable. You would have heard episode 183, how we were going live to allow these feeds to get to you quicker. So when you are listening to this, you know what that sound is in the background, whereas previously there would have potentially been a pause. You would not have heard that. So I'm rolling with it. And again, I did ask for, and I will ask for again, feedback if you want certain things included. We'll see if they behave themselves and or not. If they get a little bit too naughty, then we're just going to have to cut the feed. We'll see how that does go, but looks like he has settled. That was nice of him. All right, so WTA first, ATP second, and we will wrap up with the changeover segments. We're going to do the United Cup in between as a nice little crossover there, since it obviously is a mixed teams event. All right, let's start with Brisbane. Nothing too surprising here. I think I really want to remind you all of My Tennis Black Book. Came out December 24. Workbook came out March 25. We've got another one, but it is a fictional release I've been working on, so I've been very busy the last couple of months. So while we've had a little bit of a lag with Beyond Top 10 Tennis, that is something that will, I'll say, be slowly getting out there in its final stages now. but I will be digging into the data more. But where I'm going with this is that a lot of our episodes, especially last year, and there's obviously there's a lot. I think over 80 or more last year, for example, touched on not only the best players in the world, but those who would break into the top 10. And your Black Book looked at the 2024 season and shared with you ahead of time players who were going to make the top 10, etc. for the 2025 season. I think the accuracy rate was over 90%. That's how extensive it was. So this year, or December 25, I decided not to release that and to share that with you in real time because the metrics speak for themselves. The changeovers obviously speak for themselves, changeover segments, where that's come from as well. And that's why a number of these players and what I'm seeing, it's not surprising, potentially surprising to a lot of people. But again, if you've been looking at the data like I've been looking at it, and again, very different from the current data accessible to players, coaches, etc. That's what makes the work at AM International, everything I've built, so exciting from that perspective. All right, here we go. Brisbane, first round. We're going to go really quickly through these initial rounds, pay a little bit more attention to those later rounds. Okay, Buska over Bondar in 3. Bit surprising here, Swiatek over Pavlyuchenkova. Look, it's not so much, just would really like to see Pavlyuchenkova find that form again, although she is, I'll say, last few seasons of her career. I'll put it that way. Potapova upsetting Kasatkina, a little bit surprising there, but Kasatkina's had a bit of regression lately. Kessler over Arango. Zhang over Kruger in 3. Boscu, I'll try that third time. Boskova over Christian. That's a good win there. Tomljanovic, Jing. My apologies. Tomljanovic over Jackie Moe. Good win there. Kenin over Rus in 3. Last couple, Sasnovich over Blinkova. Jones over Maria. Big surprise there. Jones is a local up and coming. She had a wild card last year at the Australian Open. I think she came up against Rybakina from memory. Obviously didn't go that well, but this is a 500, so there's a lot of points on the line here. Joan, she's going to notch up a number of points, and she's ranked well outside the top 100, so very good win there. Taking advantage of that. Yastremska over Gibson, but Gibson, she really did push there. 2 tie breaks. Kalinskaya over Valentova, straight sets. Gadecki over Lee. That's not surprising. Good win for Gadecki. Fretch over Vondrasova, but it was very tight there. We did go over some of these last episode. Putintseva over Baptiste. Good win for Putintseva. And Birol got a first round win. Very good there over Shriamkova. That's a really good win for her as well. All right. A lot to go over. Next, okay. Second round, where all the action, so seeds are in action. Sabalenka over Buska, brutal. Ostapenko's upset by Sirsteya, so well done to Sirsteya there. Although Ostapenko arguably has been playing very well in the doubles. Schneider over Potapova, Keys over Kessler, Rybakina over Zhang. Badosa over Buskova went to 3. I like that it went to 3 good, but it shows me as well Badosa has very good form at the moment because Buskova, she finished the season on a high. Makova over Tomljanovic really shows me a tiebreak in the 3rd that Tomljanovic is finding some of that form again to push Makova to 3. Alexandrova over Kenin, very good win. Alexandrova, I think, is going to be underrated going into the Australian Open. Sasnovich has upset Torsen. Torsen will lose some points there. I think she won, I want to say, Auckland last year, decided to play Brisbane. So losing in the first round, she will be docked a number of points from that perspective. Samsonova over Jones. Good win there. Again, Samsonova, I think, will go underrated into the Australian Open. Yes, Stremska, very good win over Fernandez. Fernandez is one of those players, I think, starts the season a little bit slower, then really ramps that up. Has those highs and lows. So it'll be interesting to see if Layla finds that form in the next week or so. Pegula over Kalinskaya. She's really pushed, but well done, Kalinskaya. Look, I'm not going to be surprised if Kalinskaya, she finds, she gets comfortable inside the top 20 this season again. Andreeva over Gadecki, but Gadecki pushed her to 3. Slow start there. Noskova over Fretch, good win in 3, but Fretch really did push her. Kostyuk over Putintseva, 6-love in that third set. Putintseva obviously tiebreak in that first set, but there's more to say about Kostyuk to come. Anisimova over Birol as anticipated. All right. Round of 16, Sabalenka over Sestaya, clean. Keys over Schneider. I tell you what, if you watched this match like I did, it was exciting. That third set tiebreak, both players, there was nothing in it. They both deserved to win the match. Look, it's the best match I've seen this year. And I know there's not that many matches, but across all the tournaments, United Cup, Brisbane, Auckland, look, everything in between, this was the best match, even though it was round of 16, over all of them. It was really high level, and I liked it a lot. Schneider showed me in that match why she was pinpointed to almost potentially crack into the top 10 last year. Missed out. We had that big regression, but she is starting to pick up that form again. And I think Schneider really should be able to make potentially a quarter final, round of 16 quarters at the Australian Open if she has that form. And of course, if she doesn't bump into, say, Sabalenka, Gauff, Swiatek in, round of 16. Has very good potential there. And with her seeding, I think this could be her best chance at a good deep run at a Grand Slam yet. Okay, so you've heard that here. Rybakina over Badosa, really like that. Badosa started off strong. Rybakina amped it up. Not surprising with how well she's been playing. Rybakina, semi-finals at a Grand Slam. Looks like it is around the corner. I'm not going to go beyond that. I really want to almost pause at quarterfinals, but I'm going to give her a semi-final only because we haven't seen her push that much until the WTA finals. That's a very big, obviously, differential there. But maybe later on this season. But let's see how she goes in those earlier rounds. But I don't want to talk too much about the Australian Open. I want to hold myself back because we'll leave that for in about a week's time. All right, Makova, good win over Alexandrova. Shows me Makova is edging towards obviously top 10 again. Samsonova over Sasnovich. Pegula over Yastremska in 3. Keeping in mind Yastremska, 2024 made the quarters, I believe it was, at the Australian Open. So we know how well she can play on hard. Andreeva over Noskova, very tight. Noskova, look, she's going to be on the cusp this year of the top 10. I'd even put her ahead of Schneider, for example. Noskova, I believe she's been working with Petra Kvitova's former coach. Looks like very promising. Not too sure if that's still the case, but we've got some very good things, I think, happening for Noskova this season. And Kostyuk upsetting Anisimova in the round of 16, 4-3. Look, surprising, but not so much, because I'll say it now, Kostyuk's been pinpointed from 2024 when she made her debut round of 16 at the Australian Open. Same when Yastremska did. They both played each other, and Yastremska was the one who won. And I remember it quite well because I wrote up about it and I spoke about it back then, even though we're going back 2 years ago. Oh, my goodness. But Kostyuk, she's steadily progressed in her game. She's got some very good indicators. Not a big fan of her, and hopefully she didn't mean it this way. Language barrier, will say. Potentially, she felt as though the likes of Sabalenka, Swiatek had more testosterone, more strength in their system. That sentence alone does highlight, I'll say, a lack of education around human biology, biomechanics, anatomy, physiology, etc. So push that aside because Kostyuk had those excuses. And I'll share more when we get to the changeover segment that there's a reason why Kostyuk loses to those players. And it's not about power and strength. It's about ball play, mechanics, etc. So your biomechanics in play. And she's got full control of that. So I'll leave that until the changeover segment. But again, we're seeing some very good things. And I feel like her game's really arriving. And again, she's only 23 years of age. So time is on her side as anticipated. Sabalenka didn't peak, I believe, I want to say around 25, she started to win those Grand Slams, right? She was very good when she was younger, but didn't really find that groove, solidifying that performance until a little bit later. All right, quarterfinal, Sabalenka Keys was really looking for a 3-setter, a bit of a blockbuster, was hoping for. That wasn't the case, 3-3. Sabalenka played very good. Just, we'll say, too many errors from Keys. Wasn't able to find that groove. Mikova over Rybakina, I like this match a lot, and that is why I'm saying, you know, quarter semis maybe for Rybakina. Really like how Mikova played, and it really did highlight the difference between, you know, the top 3 players in the world and the top 5, 6, 7 players in the world from that perspective. Even though Mikova doesn't fall into that category, she really can deliver it with the best when her game is on. Pegula over Samsonova, very clean, as anticipated, I would say. Kostyuk over Andreeva. Another big surprise. So back-to-back top 10 wins, we'll say. Very impressive. But again, I think Kostyuk, she had that form. She's found that form with the likes of Anisimova, Andreeva, first, second matches, thirds of the season, really finding their form. So I'm in two minds going, has Kostyuk peaked too soon? Will she maintain that form for the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, or is she going to drop off? Whereas the likes of an Anisimova, Andreeva, they're working their way into the season, and I think they're going to actually increase. So my main concern for Kostyuk, because she's not playing her baseline, she's playing above it, which is what we want. She's peaking, which is, again, what we want. Used to sustaining it like a Sabalenka, Swiatek, Gauff, etc. On legs, that will, I think, be very interesting to see. All right, let's move on now to the semi-finals. A little bit of a lag there. You may have experienced. I think that was a connection issue. So again, this is new to me, this live perspective. So if there is a lag and you do experience it, please let me know, and we'll see what we can do about that. All right, so semi-finals. We just went over the quarters. Semi-finals, Sabalenka, Mikova, Pegula, Kostyuk. So look, we'll say 50% top 10, the other just outside or a bit more of the top 10. 3 out of the 4 are former or current top 10 players. Kostyuk, she's definitely obviously on the cusp there, and being in that company alone even suggests to me at this level, again, Kostyuk, she really is nearing that level if she can maintain. So this new peak, can she maintain that? Sabalenka over Mikova, 3 and 4. Again, Sabalenka, too good. Mikova wasn't able to play her game. Similar to Keys, and it's a very good tack what Sabalenka does. All right, and Kostyuk upset Pegula, 6-love, 6-3. Absolutely. Pegula was not playing her game. She wasn't. Kostyuk, she wasn't blasting Pegula off the court. Pegula, she just was not on. Look, if you saw her legs, they did not want to move. They did not want to bend. She did not want to move through the court. So her previous match in the quarters, obviously getting that win over, I'll say, Samsonova, really pushed her. Look, understandably, but look, I believe in Brisbane, which, again, it's only an hour away. When the semis were on, it was around 34 Celsius, which is very warm. Normally play should have been halted. I'm going to say it really did. It got to Pegula, but I don't want to take anything away from Kostyuk because they're very good for her to push through. It didn't really affect, I'll say, Sabalenka, Mikova. It didn't look like it from that perspective. All right, finals, Sabalenka, Kostyuk. I do have something written down about this for the changeover segment, so I'll hold that till later. 6-4, 6-3. That is a very good scoreline for Kostyuk to be proud of. Again, she's not a top 10 player. She's not. Her results do not correlate with the top 10. Her current level, yes, but you need that cyclical, consistent results at that level. We're not there yet, but she's getting there. So she can't get upset about not being ranked inside the top 10, losing to top 10 players if your level's not there yet. But she showed 4 and 3 is a very tight scoreline. she had some really good points there. So what separates her from the top 10 are those micro percentages. And I talk about that in the What is Your Game Missing series. So what is your game missing? What is your game missing now? What is your game missing to win? For the example, and other books after that. So the 7 Keys, How to Develop a Top 10 Tennis Ranking, The Science of Elite Performance. They're all over in the corner over there. But since there are a number of them, there are technical aspects of Kostyuk's game she's yet to optimize, which is why she's not inside the top 10. And you can really see that, especially when you're capturing those data points, specifically why. So it's actually quite obvious. All right, that is Brisbane. Well done, Sabalenka. I believe she was defending her title. So we're not looking at a gain in respect to points from that perspective, for example. It's more so holding on to her number 1 ranking, which in all fairness is very secure. All right, let's shift attention to Auckland ASB Classic very quickly. These are 250. I'm going to go very quickly over first rounds. All right, Svitolina got through over Gracheva. Bulter, good with her over Stadovitsiva. Noteworthy, Bulter's regressed outside the top 100. She was top 30 at some point during the 2025 season. Big regression, unfortunately. So it just goes to show how quickly you can slip as a ranker as well outside the top 100. The first time since she broke into the top 100. Seidel over Barry, Cartel over Tajin, Jovic over Gnatson, Bajek over Udvardi. We've got Kostolis over Osluyi. Again, as always, I apologize for the mispronunciation because I am positive I am not pronouncing them correctly. So I really do apologize. Stearns is upset over Quevedo. Lynette over Williams. But you know what? Lynette and Venus. Venus Williams did push Lynette to 3. So well done there for Venus, but well done to Lynette. Cocuretto's upset Parks. Matasinko over Osorio. Ayala's upset Bekic. 3 set there. That's a tight one too. Noteworthy. Again, Bekic, I believe it was last season, just got inside the top 20s, had a big regression since. Wang over McNally. Zarazua over Stevens. We haven't really seen Sloane Stevens play much throughout the 2025 season, let alone the 24 season. So, but good to push Zarazua to 3. Kraus over Grabo, and Jones has upset Navarro, the 2nd seed, in 3 sets. Navarro has had a bit of a regression. Was top 10, regressed outside last season. We had a lot about that. We'll share more, I think, in the weeks to come. All right, round of 16. Svitolina over Bulter. Good one there. Tough match for Katie, but that was 5 and 4. Cartel over Seidel. Jovic over Berge. Kostulis over Quingo. Lynette over Kokureto. Ayala over Manatinko. Wang over Zarazua, and Jones over Kraus. All right, quarterfinals. Svitolina Cartel. Look at the scoreline: 6-4, 6-7, 7-6. I love that from Sunny. We know how well she played at Wimbledon, for example, last year. Very good result, even though she fell. I'm curious to see if Cartel can cause some upsets. I potentially think she could push to the 3rd round, maybe around a 16 if the draw favours her. Jovic, I think, is also one to watch, especially in those earlier rounds, because I don't believe she'll be seeded, but that could be dangerous. Jovic over Kostolis, that's straight sets there. Ayala over Lynette. Good one for Ayala there, straight sets. Wang over Jones. Straight sets there, although Jones did retire in the 2nd set. Semis, Svitolina over Jovic, 7-6, 6-2. Really highlights, I think, the difference in experience there, but also how well Jovic has been playing. Pushing Svitolina, I think, to a tiebreak is no easy task. Wang got the win over Ayala, and look, Ayala's come bounds in the last 12 months. She should be really proud of herself there. Will pick up ranking points. Final, Svitolina Wang, 3 and 6 to Svitolina. We'll say no surprises there, but well done to Svitolina. All right, that's last week. Adelaide kicks off today. And look, Adelaide actually is a 500. Andreeva's the 2nd seed. Keys is this, well, actually the 1st. There's been withdrawals, and I think, I want to say Keys and Kostyuk withdrew. So Andreeva is in the top spot as the 3rd seed. And then, Keys is still in. I'm pretty sure maybe she didn't withdraw then. Maybe, okay, I'm not too sure who withdrew. So one player did withdraw. Oh, it was Pegula. There you go. Pegula did withdraw. So Andreeva's taken Pegula's space at the top, even though she's listed as the 3rd seed instead of, that's a little bit odd how they've done that. And look, it's all in action. So if you're listening to us live and you're watching live, you know the results. So for example, Badosa is playing Buskova. I'm curious because Buskova, it's going to be a tough one. And we're going to get some very good insights from that match. Joint and Ken will be interesting. Well, Torsten Tomljanovic live. Tomljanovic just took the first set. Look, very good form. Schneider will have Fernandez first round. Navarro's just got her first win of the season over Jones. Good win there. Vondrasova, she's got a tough draw against Samsonova. Kasatkina Sakari will be up. That'll be a good one. Look, Mboko's got, I think this could be her first win of the season. No, maybe. She did play, obviously, United Cup, but she's got a good win over her dad, Mayer, 3 sets there. Kalinskaya Rouge, she's just bageled the first set, Kalinskaya, but she's up 4-3 in the second. I think Adelaide, look, it'll be one to watch. Historically, there is some connection. If you play well in Adelaide, you play well at the Australian Open, but it's not the rule of thumb. But it's a good indicator. Brisbane can be a good indicator too, but look, we've had players win the Australian Open year after year, and they have not even played Brisbane, have not even played Adelaide. So I don't want to read too much into that hype that you may or may not have heard. All right, Hobart is a 250. Raducanu is the number 1 seed. Kessler's the 2nd seed. Just for perspective, we'll go over a couple. Preston's got a good win over Bozesa Maniero. That is a big upset there already. Taylor's going to get some good points. Jovic's going to be in action. Baptiste, Zarazua looks like she's going to take it out. She's got a break in the 3rd. Lynette's in action. Maria and Venus Williams will clash in the 1st round there. Good to see Venus, though, playing back-to-back tournaments. Lee Volnets, they're playing right now. McNally's in action. Stearns and Krejcikova 1st round. That'll be interesting. Krejcikova obviously coming off the United Cup. And Kessler has Danilovic 1st round. All right, let's have a look at the rankings. We're going to be relatively quick because we've got a lot of movement. I will try to pinpoint the big movers. Starting at 100, look, Alicia Parks was bumped out. She's backed in, so she's at 100 now. Going down, looking at there is a lot of movement. Look, Bajek, she's up 5 to 88. Zarazul's back 7 to 84. Roos is up 6 to 79. A lot of movement everywhere. Zhang up 6 to 73. But look, as would be anticipated, Bekic is back 1, but she's at 70 just for perspective. Danilovic is back 1 to 68. She was top 40, I believe, last season. Stearns back 3, 67. I think Stearns broke into the top 50 last season. So Collins is back 3, 65. We know 18 months ago, top 10. Cartel's up 563, but again, she was top 50, I believe. Haddad Mayer, look, a little over 12 months ago was top 10. She's at 59. Fresh is at 57, back 2, but she was again top 40. Krejcikova 18 months ago, top 10. She's up 8 to 55. So it'll be tough. No, she won't be seeded in Australia. Lynette's back 1 at 53, but again, she was top 40 last season. Sakari 18 months ago, top 10. She's at 52 now. Iala, she's up 4 to 49, almost around her high. Kazakina's back 8 to 48. She was top 10, we know, last season. Buskova steady at 45. Well, she's up 1. Pavlyuchenkova, she was top 20, I want to say about 18 months ago, steady at 44. Liza's pretty steady at 39 there. I think she could be dangerous 1st round. Look, Boisson, we know from the French Open, that fairy tale, but she's at a rankings high at 35 in the world. That'd be interesting. how she plays in Australia, because she will have automatic entry. Vondrasova, I think about 2 years ago now, we're going back top 10, but she's at 34, making her way back. Kalskaya, 33, making her way back. Joined is Australia's number one female player at the moment at 32, which looks like she could be seeded, but maybe not. Only because I know we'll see how I think the rankings do change over the next week, but she could be our first female seeded play in a number of years. Look, Jovic, how's this? She's up 5 points, which means she will be seeded for the Australian Open. That is big news. Raducanu steady at 29. She'll get a seed, which means she should be able to make it through to the third round, which will really help her points. Kennan's going to be seeded as well. There's Stremser. Look, Meadows, she was inside the top 10, but she's at 26, just back one. Zeng's withdrawn, 25. But look, in all fairness, that's what correlates. All last season, she wasn't correlating to the top 10 ranking. And I know it's a bit brutal, ruthless, but it wasn't. So this does correlate. She's going to be docked a number of points. Not that much, because she didn't play very well last Australian Open. So she's probably okay from that perspective, right? Doesn't have that many points to defend. So I think she will be safe. I think if she makes it to Miami, Indian Wells, for example, come March, that'd be interesting. Or if she waits for the clay court season to kick off, could be easier on that elbow. Look, Schneider's back 2 to 23. She was top 15, but if she plays like she's played the past week, I think, in the next couple of months, she could really make a good run. Layla steady at 22. Merton's played an incredible week, so she's back 2 at 21, but definitely on the cusp of the top 10 again. Kostyuk's up 6 to 20. Again, she's been as high, I think, as 16 in the world. I think she definitely can get inside the top 15 at least, if not more, if she has a good run like following weeks. Makova's up 1 to 19. She was around 11, 12 last season. So I think, again, she can make those inroads. Look, Samsonova, Mboko's at 1 to 17. I'm going to say that doesn't really correlate. Let's see. Maybe she'll make a really good run in the next few weeks. And we've got Osaka, Navarro, no changes. Torsen at 14. Scove's back 113. Svitoline's at 112. Alexandro's back 1 to 11. All right, top 10. Welcome back to the top 10, Bencic. It has been a long time coming since maternity leave, but this is huge news for Belinda. She's a former top 10 player. We know former gold medalist. She has... I think if Belinda plays as well as she played against Swiatek, she absolutely could make a deep run in Australia, and I'm all here for it because she played phenomenal. She really did. But that's a conversation we will have shortly. Keys is back 2 to 9. Look, she's got those points to defend. If she does not defend those points, we probably will see Keys slip. But if she does, she'll still be ranked, I will say, inside the top 20. She will be, and then she'll be able to reset and I think gain those points. At this stage, I'm probably not counting on that defense. Andreeva's up 1 to 8, then Paylina's up 1 to 7, Pegula's at 6, Rybakina at 5. And look, I know there was a lot of news the past week about, Gauff's at 4, Anisimovan's at 3, but it's corrected. Anisimovan's back 1 to 4, Gauff's up 1 to 3. And it really was because the season started a little bit later. And so the rankings docked points, which was really silly. There was no need to, because it was going to correct itself the following week. So any changes that we did see the past week, they were not correlated. They were, I will say, almost human error, you could say, or computational error from that perspective. It was not relevant. Swiatek, then Sabalenka, they are both steady. Big news, I think, from Poland's, even though Swiatek, look, she did play some great tennis, but she did fall in those last 2 matches, 2 top 10 players. Well, granted, now Bencic inside the top 10. Hurkacz played phenomenal. That said, she still played some really good tennis in those earlier rounds. All right, that is the WTA Tour done, but we're going to have that switch and we're going to look at the United Cup. So we'll do that first. we did last episode kick off, I think, day 4. So we're at day 5, but we'll do this quickly. We'll focus predominantly on the singles. Krejcikova over joint straight sets. De Minaur over Bencic straight sets. Both of those results are phenomenal, I think, in themselves. Italy, France, Paolini over Gingy in straight sets. Rintek over Kaboli in 3. That's an upset. Then we've got Canada, Belgium. Berg's upset Felix. And this is the match after I shared Alyssa May played phenomenal against Alex. And Berg's just played an incredible match. Mertens over Mboko. But Mboko pushed Mertens to 3, which I think is very promising. Okay, Poland and Netherlands. Swiatek over Lamens. Good match, although Lamens pushed her. And I say that tongue-in-cheek because it was an hour and 12 minutes. But anything over an hour for Swiatek when she's on point, the player's pushing her a little bit. Hurkacz over Greekensball, good match. Hurkacz arguably is finding that top 10 form again. And I think that'll be really exciting to see if he can make his way back inside the top 10 this season, because he played the best United Cup tennis I think he's played in his career. Okay, Switzerland, Argentina, Bencic over Sierra, great match there. Baez over Wawrinka, straight sets. Gauff Sakari 3-2. Tsitsipas upset Fritz. That was actually a really interesting sign after Tsitsipas really showing, or we had that changeover segment where I shared the weaker parts of his game. Fritz wasn't even able, didn't take advantage of that, which is a bit upsetting. Curious to see now how Taylor plays in Australia, if he finds that form again. Sakari, though, she's been playing some good tennis as well, despite the losses. Belgium, Czech Republic, Bergs over Minsk. Again, Bergs, with these wins, something to keep an eye out for, I think, because not necessarily anticipated. Mertens over Krejcikova, really good win there, but Krejcikova did push Mertens to 3, and I like that. I think Krejcikova is finding that form again that not only allowed her to win Wimbledon, 2024, but has allowed her to obviously maintain top 10 ranking for a number of years, top 20, etc., win multiple Grand Slams. Australia and Poland, Swiatek over joint, as anticipated, under an hour. It was, I think we take it for granted how well she can play when she's really on. De Minaur, though, over Hurkacz, really pushed to 3 over 2 hours. But it shows how well Hurkacz was able to toe the line with one of the best players in the world. Alex is one of the best players in the world. He's top 10, and he does correlate. So well done to Alex, but also to Hurkacz, not letting Alex run away with it. Switzerland and Belgium, Bergs over Wawrinka in 3. Again, Stan, last season on tour, a great result there. Bencic over Mertens. But look, that tie-break in the 3rd, 7-love. But besides that, it was neck and neck, and it was really exciting to watch. United States, Poland, I was looking forward to this. It was huge. I'll start with Hurkacz and Fritz, back-to-back tie-breaks. And this shows me Hurkacz, he came out with the win 7-1, 7-2. How well he's playing. He's literally got a winner over a top 10 player and an almost win over another top 10 player. Really rooting for Hurkacz to go deep in Australia. Round of 16 would get him, I think, really push those ranking points at least, and hopefully we can see him back inside the top 30, climb back inside the top 20 midway through the year, I think would really do. All right, this one made me a little bit frustrated. Full confession, a little bit frustrated. Gauff and Swiatek, look, started toe the line. I do have a bit of a rundown, so I will talk about that in the changeover segment. Gauff over Swiatek, 6-4, 6-2. So I will leave that for the changeover segment we will do. Then we've got Poland and Switzerland were the final. But although, go back to the United States and Poland, it was neck and neck. Hats off to the doubles. It went to a tiebreak. It was 7-6, 7-6. Though 7-5, 7-3 in the tiebreak. That was neck and neck. Really exciting, I think, from that perspective. So hats off to Kawa and Zelensky with how well they play for the doubles. Because ironically, look, on paper, Swiatek, number 2 player in the world, would have got the team over the line. Hurkacz, who's been out for 7 months after knee surgery, he got a number of really impressive wins, and the doubles team were undefeated. And I think that was very exciting. Okay, Switzerland and Poland again. And I will leave this for the changeover segment. But Hurkacz, Wawrinka, really good for Stan to push Hurkacz to 3-6-3, 3-6, 6-3. That was an exciting match to watch. Yes, I watched all of it. And Bencic, Swiatek, yes, I watched this one as well. Bencic, 3-6, 6-love, 6-3. So, yeah, that second set frustrates me. It's not the first time we've seen that happen. A player who has the capacity to wipe players off the court in less than an hour over and over again, mentally, it frustrates me purely because I know Swiatek has the capacity to not allow that to happen. Something's not quite right in her coaching team to not correct that. And I'll leave that again to the changeover segment to say more, but well done, Bencic. She played phenomenal. She didn't let Swiatek manipulate the court. Bencic just played her game. Swiatek did not adapt. And Bencic, she just played solid tennis. She absolutely deserves rejoining the top 10 this week. And I think that's the biggest takeaway. And with the doubles going to, look, singles 1-1, obviously Bencic winning and then Hurkacz winning. And the doubles, just wow, was 6-4, 6-3. So Kawa and Zelensky secured the United Cup 14 Poland. I think that's huge. And I think it's really nice to for the doubles to get that highlight that they wouldn't normally get. So that's really cool. All right, so the men's tour, that was the crossover there. Let's have a look at Brisbane to kick things off. It is a 250, so keep that in mind. But Medvedev was playing. Medvedev number 1 seed. Davidovich became the 2nd seed. Let's be really quick here. All right, Medvedev over Fucsovics, straight sets there. That wasn't easy though. Tiafoe over Vukic, straight sets. Mazdarak over Altama, straight sets. Opelka over Sweeney, straight sets. Lehecka over Makak in 3 as anticipated. So well done there to Lehecka. Korda over Vachereau, straight sets. Mitchelson, up and come up. We know that, or next gen from last season. This season will be interesting to see what happens. 3-set win over Duckworth there. Teen over Carabelli, straight sets. Norrie in 3 over Humbert. Kogovic over Kyrgios, who has withdrawn from the singles. He did get a wild card. So Wawrinka looks like got the wild card for the Australian Open, which I think was really the right call from the very beginning. Hijaka over Walton, straight sets. Mapeshi Perigard over Paul. Big upset there. 3-setter. But again, Paul started last season 12 months ago, was top 10. Predictive analytics had him top 10. And then obviously had that big regression, similar to Navarro, how they kind of fell off their A game last season. So it'll be interesting to see if both Navarro on the women's side, Paul on the men's side, can find that form starting, I think, in a fortnight's time. Well, a little over a week, actually. They can refine that, I think, form and pick those points up again. All right, Kolnion over Shapovalov. That's an upset there, straight sets. Kolnion was a qualifier. Dimitrov, great to see him back in action. He's won Brisbane a few times before, I believe. Straight sets over Carino Busta. Hals over Popperin. Big upset there, 3 sets. And Nakashima got the win over Davidovich Fokina, straight sets. All right, which brings us to... if I can get you there, which looks like maybe not. We'll try again. No. All right. We'll have a backup. Okay, this one is working. That's a mouse being not responsive, not letting me share with you what I want to share. All right, so second round, well, no, round of 16. It's just the name of the draw. So it really is second round, but round of 16. We've got Medvedev over Tiafoe. Good match there, but straight sets. Shows where I think Medvedev's level is at. Mazdarak over Opelka. That was a tough one. 3 tiebreakers. Mazurek with the last 2. Quarter over Lehecka. Well, Quarter was top 30, I think, about 2 years ago. That's a really good win for him because he has really regressed in the rankings. Mitchelson over Teen. That's surprising. 4 and 2. Well done, Mitchelson. Kogovic over Norrie in 3. Mapeshi Perigard over Rinky in 3. So well done, Rinky, for pushing, I think, Mapeshi Perigard to 3. And Collignon over Dimitrov. Big upset there. Collignon playing some really great tennis. And then Nakashima over Hals in straight sets. All right, which brings us to the quarterfinals. Let's see if the other mouse is behaving itself. Looks like no. All right, we're not too sure what's happening there. Going back, right. All right, quarterfinals. We've got Medvedev and Mazurek. So Mazurek actually started to pick, I think, around the US Open last season, rings a bell. Had some really good inroads. I think there's a piece that I have written about that, or he's featured somewhere on AMA International anyway. But he pushed Medvedev to 3 sets. That was really close, 6-7, 6-3, 6-2. Mitchelson over Quarter, good win, straight sets. Kogovic over Mapeshi Perigard in 3, and Nakashima over Collignon. Look, semi-finals, Medvedev, Mitchelson, Kogovic, Nakashima, 3 Americans, and then you got Medvedev, only 1 player ranked inside the top 10, let alone top 20. Medvedev over Mitchelson, straight sets, and then Nakashima over Kogovic in straight sets there. This was a really good match. Medvedev, Nakashima, look, 6-2, 7-6. It was the second set. I think Medvedev had set points when I was watching it, 5-4. And then Nakashima won it, took it to 5-all, tiebreak, and then 7-1 Medvedev in the tiebreak. But it looked like it was this close to going to a third. Yeah. So well done there to Medvedev. Well done to Nakashima, though, making the finals. All right. Over to Hong Kong. Hong Kong is, I believe, a 250. Mazzetti's the number 1 seed and Bublik is the 2nd seed. And I do like it when the draws play out per the seedings. All right. So let's do this. Echeverry over Royer, straight sets. Wong over Navone, straight sets. Diallo over De Jong, straight sets. Wu over Manazan. Silic over Manarino. Borges over Zamur. Mueller over Kekmanovic. Giron over Jerry. Moi over Tabilo. That's surprising there. Sanigo over Sakamoto. Shang over Komasana. Venison Schulp over Struff. All right. Round of 16, second round because of the smaller draw. Zeddy over Echeverry in 3, Wong over Diallo, Rublev back in action over Wu, Borges over Silic, Garon over Mueller. Here's an upset, Maha over Kakanakov, 2 tiebreaks there. That is actually a big upset there. Shang over Sanigo, Bublik over Van Schulp, straight sets. All right, so not too much to note here other than the Kakanakov. Quarters, Mazzetti over Wong, Rublev over Borges, Garon over Moore, and Bublik over Shang, which means as far as our semi-finals are concerned, we do have 3 of the top 4 seeded players. Mazzetti over Rublev in 3 and Bublik over Garon in 3. Finals, though, look, we've got number 1 and 2 in the finals, Mazzetti and Bublik respectively, and it goes to Bublik 7-6, 6-3. And I tell you what, with this win, when the ATP updates their rankings, Bublik very well could be on the cusp of joining the top 10. I believe he's on a career high. I don't believe Bublik has ever been a top 10 player before. At this stage in his career, that would be very significant. He's been top 20, broke into the top 20 last season. And he's just not slowing down. He's really found that next level of his game, created that next baseline. And it is one to watch, especially, I think, in Australia. Let's see what happens. All right, we've gone over United Cup. Let's head on over to Adelaide. Kicks off today. And we do have here, David Fokina is the number 1 seed. And we do have Paul as the 2nd seed. Let's see if Paul can get some wins under his belt before the Australian Open starts. Look, Kokonakis is back in action. Quarters here. Vacherot, Kekmanovic, Grikenspor, Fuchsovic, Nakashima, Makak, Sarandulo, Tsitsipas, Poprin, and Paul. So no matches yet are underway. That will happen, I believe, later today. The women's women's draw is already underway. All right, Auckland for the men kicks off today. Shelton is the number 1 seed, and the second seed is Rudd. He played some good tennis at the United Cup, so it'll be, I believe it was the United Cup. It could have been Brisbane. So let's see how that happens. I want to say it was the United Cup. We do have some matches already, though. Comasana over Royer, Brooksby over Watt. Mitchelson will be in action. Norrie will be back in action. Mapisha Perigard back in action. Bencic back in action. Spirit got the win over Marino, straight sets. But that's all we've got. But Monfils is also back in action. I believe Monfils did win it last season, so he's looking to defend his title. All right, quickly to the rankings now. Big episode today. Let's see if they have updated them by now. I'm not going to hold my breath. I think they're going to update it probably in, I'll say, another 6 hours. But we're not going to wait that long. All right, so going off by last week's, we'll start at 100, looking for any big movers. Look, Bonzi's back 5 at 99. Boost is up 2 to 100. But I'm going to look for any big movements. Here we go. Hurkacz, for example. He's back 11. That was last week, though, to 83 in the world. Let's see the type of points he gets this week from the United Cup when that does come through. I'll look for any movement with double digits, for example. There is a lot to go over, but I don't want to focus on it purely because they haven't updated it yet, and I want it to correlate predominantly with the WTA Tour. All right, so Dimitrov's back 3 at 47 for perspective. Obviously, he was top 10 around the US Open or just outside. Tsitsipas, he's up 2 to 34. Potentially, it looks like if he does not perform well in Adelaide, he will miss out on a seed for the Australian Open. That will make things a little bit more tricky. Look, Fonseca's back 5. I didn't actually realize he got that high, but he will be seeded, I think, at the first time at a Grand Slam. I don't think he was seeded at the US Open. Tiafoe's at 30, so should still be seeded. Nakashima's up to 33, but after his finalist result, he will be bumped up even further. So it looks like he will be seeded for the first time at a Grand Slam. Same with Lernatine, which we would not have thought about 12 months ago. All right, Paul's at 20 for perspective. No other movement. Look, Kaknikov 17 was top 10. Rublev, Rune at 15. We know he's out of action. Davish Fokina 14. Medvedev is at 13. But when the rankings update, I'm not going to be surprised, actually, if Medvedev pushes into the top 10, but also with Bublik's win, although it was a lower tier tournament, they could be on par. Medvedev should actually go in front of Bublik because as far as points are concerned. Draper, Fritz, let's see if it's going to, I'll just quickly switch to live to see if it's going to share with us. Yeah, here we go. All right, so Bublik looks like he's just pushed into the top 10 on the live rankings. That is huge news for Bublik. And as far as the draw is concerned, I think at the Australian Open, that is a big opening, a big potential for Bublik. Draper's outside the top 10. We know he's not in action. Medvedev's back to 12. That's a tough one. Really thought he could have just scraped through. No changes as far as order, I think, around the top 10. Alex is at 6. Mazzetti still 5. Felix 7. Shelton looks like if he does play well, he will go up to 7. So him and Felix may switch there. It looks like it. Same with Rudd. If he plays, he could move up to 12. That's interesting. All right. So the top 10, there could be some shuffles prior to the Australian Open. But we can dig into that a little bit deeper before they do the draw or around or after when they do the draw. All right. So WTA Tour is done. ATP Tour is done, which means we get to have a look at the changeover segments. No, don't know what's happened with that one. All right, so the plays we're going to we'll kick this off now to wrap today's episode up. All the players I've listed in the episode notes, we're going to do a quick deep dive on. Very briefly, though, I don't want to give too much away. All right, Pegula and Samsonova. So again, I'm giving context about when they were playing, what happened. Pegula, serve, legs, limited in depth, pulls back, halts momentum too soon, limits kinetic chain. So what this says, or to get those wins, Pegula serves, she's already halting her momentum, so which means she's more easily to be able to be pushed back. You hit the ball back deep for Pegula, she's going to struggle to maintain that balance and then take the offensive. And or because she serves and automatically pulls back too quickly, if you drop the ball short, she's already traveling backwards, got that momentum going backwards because she's halting that transition. It means she's going to struggle to get those shorter balls. So I'm not going to tell you too much, but there are two very big tactical points that aren't even technical. Technical for Pegula if she wants to work on her serve. I've given, there you go, that coaching advice. However, if you're her opponent and you want to get the wins against her, use that momentum to your advantage. You need to push the ball deep or drop it short. Drop it short, Pegula is going to push it deep, and then you're going to lob her because her balance is already a little bit off center, so center of gravity, etc. Pegula can definitely work on that. But again, for context, it's during that match. What happened in that match, even though she did get the win there, it goes to show you can still find those very big openings for future matches where those key weaknesses really are. All right, Andreeva Kostyuk. We know Kostyuk got the win here. Andreeva, though, what she was struggling at, depth of serve, easy to attack, falls halfway in service box at times. So Andreeva's serve was literally leaning halfway in the service box. If you are any type of player, you are stepping up and you are smacking that ball away. You are putting it away. It is like a huge ball with an invitation to smack into that corner, regardless of where you want to put it. Have some fun. As a top 10 player, Andreeva doing that, you can't get away with that. But what's really frustrating here is that at times she was, but Kostyuk, she's really worked on her perception and anticipation on the court. And I say that because not everyone can read the ball and have that confidence to step up. And so by her doing that was very advantageous to her game and obviously making the finals of the 500 event. Okay, Diminor, when he played Hurkacz, this is for Hurkacz. All right, so Hurkacz here, tendency to fall back on his backhand at times. So what this tells me is if you've got Hurkacz, and look, I want him to come back, but I'll keep it small. He can be susceptible on his backhand. If you push it deep outside his hitting zone, Hurkacz falls back so that momentum then pushes back, which means you step forward and take that advantage. You either bring him in, he's going to struggle to regain that speed to come in, and or push him back, then draw him out to the side because he's already off balance. But for goodness sake, don't keep hitting it back to him like so many players have been doing because he's too good to take control again of the rally. And that's what a lot of players keep doing. And it's very frustrating. All right. Next, we have Swiatek and Gauff. I've got Swiatek and Gauff, I think, twice. Or Swiatek twice here because of her Bencic match. So the first one was when she was playing Gauff. All right. Swiatek, rush the forehand, forces the error. Which means depth of shot, opponent taking the ball early. These are my notes. More susceptible to mistime forehand when pressed. At times, lifts on the backhand when pushed wide, forces the error. Typically, she plays so good, it's ridiculous. But she gets this pressure and gets really tense in her shots. And as a number 2 player in the world with very good team, or she has at her disposal a very good team and she can shuffle that up if needed, you should not be losing a set almost 6-0 if it's the number 3 player in the world, if you're almost on par, they're making you rush your forehand, but you know they're going to do this, which means you need to reposition yourself to not allow them to keep doing that to you. Yes, you need to take the ball early. Swiatek does, but you can readily push Swiatek out of position by pushing her back, pushing her, and then she's not going to give up the baseline. Sometimes you need to give up the baseline. Nadal's a perfect example. He'd give it up and then step in. That is where momentum, the kinetic chain, you really rip up the back of the ball. They're all advantageous. So you're only giving up the baseline for those microseconds to take the advantage. Next note is Swiatek's inability to change tactics. Overhit when the pressure is on allows her game to fall apart. So again, tactics-wise, Swiatek really needed to change what was going on, but refused to, just stuck to her game. She overhits when the pressure is on, so needs to find a way to decompress. And then there are really big openings in her game. Gauff just played her game. She did not play a phenomenal game. She took advantage of Swiatek's game. Gauff, her athleticism has improved on point. She is dangerous. It is very impressive, her athleticism. Forces her opponent to go for more. So that's what happened to Swiatek. So if you've got a really athletic player like Gauff, and she has put in the hard work for her off-season, she is moving the best I've ever seen her move. Kudos to Gauff, exceptional. What are you going to do? You need to look for those weaknesses on that forehand, on that backhand. If she's moving around the court, you can't keep hitting it into her hitting zone. You can't hit it down the center of the court. You need to open up the court. You need to mix it up. If you watch Swiatek's game closely, she wasn't versatile enough. And she has that in her arsenal. She can do that. So I don't know what her coaching team is doing and not, because if I can see that Swiatek is this close to winning another Grand Slam, and Gauff should not be almost bageling her, or maybe she did bagel her. No, Bencic did, but it was that close to bageling her. That should not be the case. All right. Kostyuk and Sabalenka. This kind of goes both ways, so bear with me here. All right, so note Sabalenka takes the advantage more often due to ball placement and positioning. Kostyuk needs to make the ball earlier. Anticipation is key, and not hit to Sabalenka's strike zone. It's not a power tussle, but rather a ball placement and level of perception separating shot outcomes. So to simplify that, Sabalenka knows what she's doing. She knows exactly where her ball's going, and she's hitting her spots. Kostyuk, however, was not placing her ball as accurately, as precisely as required against a player of Sabalenka's caliber. It was not about hitting the player off the court. I don't think Kostyuk was hit off the court. It's not about that. If you can move, you're not going to be hit off the court. If your technical parameters are on point, you're not going to be hit off the court. You need to be able to move to the ball. You need to be able to obviously anticipate what's coming. That comes with experience, and that correlates typically with your ranking, those progressions, etc. So if you've been working on that, that should not be something that separates you. You should be able to take that force and then redistribute it back to your opponent. So it's about her shot selection in this instance. Right. So when Kostyuk moves the ball around, she can force the error from Sabalenka, although often unforced. So it is, she does have that capacity, and we started to see insights into that, but Sabalenka was too good and stepped up. All right, last two, Bencic and Swiatek. So the match there, the last match we saw. All right, Swiatek, put the pressure on. See how she creates her own errors by going for too much. Give Swiatek the pace, and she doesn't adjust. Could easily take spin and pace off the ball to work on hitting her shots versus forcing the error. So what I mean by that, Swiatek didn't slow her ball down. She didn't slow her spin rate down. Bencic, if I was it, would have been laughing. She's playing her best tennis, and Swiatek's letting her. And it's like, tell me why. What is stopping Swiatek from taking a few RPMs off that topspin, making Bencic create her own pace? Because when she does that, it goes over the baseline. Why isn't Swiatek's mind switching to let's take pace off the ball? Why isn't her coach then telling her take pace off the ball? Why isn't she changing up the height of the ball? So instead of continuously hitting inside Bencic's hitting zone, why isn't Swiatek creating those different heights to really push Bencic's hitting zone out so she's not able to hit her sweet spots? So it's that versatility that any good top 10 player has. Any top 10 player, they really do have. But in the heat of the moment, Swiatek does not do that when she needs to. Could have done the same thing with Gauff, although a little bit trickier with Gauff's style of play, but could have done that. And this is an event where the coach is in the corner, which means in their conditioning, so their training sessions, these are tactics that should be worked on, discussed, but something's not quite right. If she goes out there and is bageled in a set, it means they're not obviously putting those key facets of play into action. And as an outsider, then watching her game not necessarily fall apart technically. Yes, there are technical elements that succumb to the pressure, but parts of her game that we see she hits so cleanly, like those last few games, Swiatek, it was just almost too late, but she played some really clean games, was going for her shots, but then hit too far, which means she needs to work on placement on or just before the baseline, and why she hits just over. And again, a player of her caliber, she can do that. She really can, but it's the pressure that causes her, I think, to overhit from those perspectives. So it's using that pressure, taking that pressure and utilizing it in a more positive way. All right, Bencic, move the ball around, hit it into her strike zone down the center, danger, must make her stretch, hit it out of her contact zone, push her back, bring her forward, make her uncomfortable. Look, Bencic was moving the ball around. Swiatek was hitting it into her strike zones, so Bencic was laughing. But if you make Bencic stretch on the run, hit it out of her contact zone, push her back, bring her forward, make her uncomfortable, that is the biggest element of her game. Yes, there were technical flaws. Of course there were. But this is really an element to discuss about why her game was working so good, because Swiatek was really feeding into it. But what Swiatek really had to do, and other players need to do when Bencic is playing this good, to really get over the line. So that, from that perspective, was, of course, it was a bit frustrating to watch when you have those type of answers and you want to help. All right, so that's that for the changeover segment. That's it for today's episode. It is our biggest one for the season. Please share your feedback, how we went. It is obviously that cross-section between what we were doing last season with the full, I think, analysis of rankings results, plus the addition of the changeover segment. Let me know what you like to see more of, what we can improve on as well. All right, so thank you so much for listening. To grab a copy of one of my 14 books, you can find them on amainternational.com or Amazon, so irrespective where you're based in the world. If any comments or questions, head to AIM International or Topic Thread, or leave comments directly on YouTube or Spotify. To interact with Beyond Top 10 Tennis, catch up on our blogs, or sign up to my newsletter, head to AIM International, and remember to check out Pink Octopus Books to Spruik. Look, if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, like, share, and all of the above. Beyond Top 10 Tennis exists for you, so please consider sharing us at near and far. And look, if you're serious about heading towards the top 10, or want to know what your game is missing to secure that maiden Grand Slam or more, don't be shy and come and say hi. All right, on that note, thank you so much for listening. I am so incredibly grateful. I'm your host, Dr. Ashley Morgan Berge, and this is Beyond Top 10 Tennis, and I'll see you next time.